Greetings and hello once again. This here is the Ancient Spirit Tralaka talking here, video 63 here in Spirit. Now, the Puritan Atlantians in double rows, but closely together, walked hastily down the lit from within tube of energy. Moments later, as the first of them were getting within view of the front doors, or this side of the mothership saucer, the doors opened from within. They thought it was of their own, but from behind the opening doors walked four robotic beings, who then stood two to each side as a motion for those Puritan Atlantians to enter the now lit up interior that was vast in size and levels. "Hello, Atlantians again," one of the robotic beings began to say. "We before you to each side are your main crew for operating this mothership saucer. We are the flight crew," he continued. "Within the vastness of this mothership saucer is 6 other crews of 4 robotic beings apiece to assure that all will be smooth as possible. You, please, you, move without stop, each of you into the rows of the very high-backed and cushioned seats. Then put of yous, your arms and straightened fingers to the rails that are padded between you, and no jewelry or non-Atlantian humanoid body effects beyond you. You can put them in a large pouch underneath the center of your seats for safekeeping." Row after row of the Puritan Atlantians filed into the mothership saucer, down the long rows of variable lengths and levels, and sat in those very high back seats in a nervous quiet. Levels below them, the cargo bays were also being loaded quickly and secure by 2 of the sets of robotic beings. All cargo within was magnetically strapped tight, as the secondary engines of the mothership saucer hummed into motion, as they were started by one set of the robotic beings as they went from different workstations to double check and triple check. And okay, these are robotic beings here, but yet they're quadruple and double checking and triple checking everything. Such precision. And even the actual secondary engines, that all was within the specs appropriate to each engine, checking then also the hydrogen tanks of the filtered water that had been greatly enhanced to provide very much extra power than normal, as the secondary engines were going to use it. Then checking the rows and rows of 8-foot by 1-foot wide generator crystals to ensure their proper containment clamps and top and bottom gold cables with their thick copper wrappings, and inches thick clear crystal silica that was flexible to contain that great power within the lines. It was a few hours, it seemed later, though the robotic beings assured that all was on time. All the doors then were locked that had been opened on the different levels for entry and supplies before. The energy tube that had been lit from within had already dissolved. The 2 sets of pillars and screens way up on that location of secret entry into the Great Valley had darkened already and returned the illusions of trees and heavy vines in front and to the sides of the pillars. It was back like it was before, and it has been for so long of so many generations of Atlantean lives. The Puritan Atlantean, though of a few species, were all in position, the pads under their hands lit up in a light green. Remember that color. Then, with the downward pull, the beings felt to each one of their beings' hands who were now seating Strangely, that it was always the hand held down that was not the favored hand to eat or to operate equipment. This startled some of them as they began to realize still how much of this high technology they truly had forgotten or abandoned. In each of the pads that held that hand tight, now a set of three needles, which were small, popped into that held hand wrist to connect to the main nerves. This caused some to cry a bit, and others a brief system of surprise, woo! Though it didn't seem to notice many people because of all the excitement of leaving. The lead robotic being of the main crew, just before pushing the main intercom to speak that they are all set to move the mothership saucer off the surface of the planet. He turns his head to the left and speaks to the one next to him. Our longtime creators long said we should inspire to be more humanoid. The other robotic being replied, I don't think so, as they both turned to head for the pilot and the co-pilot seats. The twin women, Enosia and Partensia, they were the only two Atlantians which had seats in the bridge control deck with the robotic beings. Those two who were the pilots and the other two who were the main set of the four robotic beings that were in the navigation seats. Now, Enosia and Partensia were in the two seats to the back of the bridge control deck off to one side in two very heavily padded tallback chairs that faced each other. The only sets of chairs on the whole mothership saucer that faced each other like this, okay? With the far side arm rails that connected each chair to each other. They moved quickly into each one of those chairs as they were now then seated. That connected arm rail came to life and the pads glowing blue. Okay? The circular ring, just small enough to fit within the joined chairs from above. This ring had rings within it until there are 7 rings of different colors, each to a different energy center color of the Atlantean body, plus 3 rings above them in the center. That was, one was silver, one was gold, and one was clear. As this occurred, the secondary engines now went into full operation as the camouflage netting above the mothership saucer disappeared, and they shot straight quickly up into the air. The inner parts of the mothership saucer anti-gravity was already operational and counter-buffering, so that no G-force was felt by anybody of this straight lift, as the two robotic beings, the pilot and the co-pilot, operated the ship. Just about to the planetary grid, all magnetic engine drive at the mark to punch through in hyperspace speed. The co-pilot spoke to the pilot. Puncher! The pilot replies. Roger! The co-pilot reached over and pushed the seats of the electronic crystal spheres. A mere seconds before the mothership reached the planetary grid, the ship glowed orange and stretched into a long, thin line and was gone and shot straight through the planetary grid, causing a great disturbance that rolled into the three-dimensional skies overhead as hundreds of square miles of that certain species of reptilian's grid exploded in many shades of color in the early morning sky as the fifth-dimensional electronic gridding in that area was folding over on top of itself with the wide gaping hole in its place and a light show that no one's ever seen before. It was very intense. Now, as the main drive engines had used the collective of the Earth's magnetic field to thrust it into a limited hyperspace as it reached forward to the moon's gravity well to stabilize the hyperspace travel, as the Earth's moon was now getting out of past view and just a little speck before them, the rows of tall generator crystal hummed forcibly into life. Wasn't long before the Earth's planetary system was left behind. The two women in those seats on the bridge control deck were steadily focusing on the flow of the oneness within the living multidimensional universe. From them, it went straight through the joined armed rail pads to each one of the pads of everyone on the mothership saucer, creating slowly and gaining more and more as the Puritan once Atlantians minds and inner spirit slid into the calmness of the love within the living multi-dimensional universe's higher vibrations. The past worries fell away more and more as they were being nourished by the flow of oneness, though in the area there was crying of happiness, woohoo, and a release of stress. This here is the ancient spirit Tralaka. Take care. Journey in your journeys, in your meditations, and in your life carefully and grow in the wisdom of what can be. Good night.